People, Deluded, I'm back again. Now, Arsenal's young creative midfielder slash winger Emile Rowe has been on loan at Huddersfield, and he's been doing all right. You know, for me, I still don't know if he's going to be able to break in next season. I think pre-season he deserves the chance to show Arteta. Personally, I'll keep him in and around the squad. Do I think he's dramatically a better player than he was 6 months or so ago when he left on loan? No. That being said, I think he's got crucially more experience through playing senior football. I think he's found new confidence, playing first team football, feeling important in the side, having a manager in Danny Crowley that believes in him and manages him quite well and cares about his fitness. And I think he's been able to show his capabilities, and that what we all know is that he can be a good footballer. Whether at Arsenal or somewhere, it's down to him. I think, it's the same things, with Emile. He's good on the half turn, like he's been showing in the last few games I'm going to speak about. He can set up chances. Obviously, goals and assists need to improve, because fundamentally that's going to be what makes or breaks you in that role. He can develop into a number 8 or playing central midfield as well as a 10 or the flanks, but that's what's going to develop you. I do think it's not the end of the world if he goes out on loan again. Like, ironically, I think, potentially playing for Norwich or Villa this year might have been beneficial to him. He can still go out on loan one more year and do something else, but I'd like to see him given a chance. With no disrespect to Joe Willock, I have to assume Joe Willock is ahead of him because he plays ahead of him in that role, and Joe hasn't gone out on loan. Emile has. But I don't see what Joe can offer in that role that Emile can't. I think Emile's got more ability than him. I think Emile, one thing I like about him is his positioning. He knows areas to take up on the field to come onto the ball. But there's got to be a reason as to why Arteta kept the rest and allowed him to go out on loan. So it's down to him to fight in pre-season. Against against Forest, he was off the bench, people. He set up a chance for Grant, but there was nothing else there, people. And I'm pretty sure he was that the game? There was a game he played. He took the corner and it led to a foul for a penalty. I could be wrong. Against Wigan, he was missing / ineffective. He was taken off really early. Yeah, man. I think his decision making kind of is costing him from getting assists. That being said, he should have had an assist for Carl Grant, who fluffed his lines against Wigan. Don't think he had the best of games. He recovered. He looked good against Birmingham in his out there, people. He had a strong first 20 in particular. He looked good on the half turn. He tried to make things happen. He was running at people. They won 3-0. He had a good game against Birmingham, and he showed what he can do, people. Against Reading, he got 72 minutes in there 0-0. I think, they kind of made it difficult for the whole team and kind of limited the space for him to get onto, but I think he worked hard within that. He got on the ball, he tried to make things happen. He couldn't really get into areas or do anything effective in areas that's really going to hurt Reading, but he did okay in the 72 minutes there. Didn't get long against Preston. The whole team was terrible against Luton. I mean, they lost 3-0. He had a shot from distance. He had some decent dribbles, some decent touches. But again, the one theme of Emile's play, as much as I like him, you can see decent half turns, decent touches, decent thingies, but more often than not you're thinking about where's goals and assists. Like, you can't just live and die off goals and assists, but essentially in that role that's what he's going to have to bring to the table. I think I would give him an opportunity next year to force his way in the team like Martinelli's done, like Eddie did, like Saka did, but I can see logic behind going out on loan again, people. There's no rush. Again, he had some decent touches and decent dribbles, but again, the whole team against Luton was terrible and ultimately toothless. He was forced backwards a lot, and I do think he needs to be a bit more aggressive and dynamic if he is going to fit into what Arteta wants him to do. But I still think it's there, people, man. I still think it's there. I still think he's been showing his ability. I still think he's been showing some good touches. For me, the main thing is that he's found confidence being at Huddersfield, remembering that he can have a future at the top level. They're again in action today against Sheffield Wednesday, people, and then they'll play against Huddersfield, and that the 22nd is when their season ends at Millwall, people. So we'll see how it goes. And I apologise about saying 3-0 against Luton. I don't know why I had 3, because my notes are saying 2. Apologies. They're really poor in that second half. So yeah, man, it's nice to see him playing in that 10 role as well, because he's got to be able to play in that 10 long term wise. He's spoken about playing central midfield apparently, and on the flanks he can give us something. On the left he might be able to nail something down. You never know. Right now, in terms of youngsters pecking order, it seems like Nelson is favoured by Arteta. But Nelson, if you develop, you could take Nelson's place in the pecking order. I think Emile's been decent on loan, and ultimately for me it's given him the confidence, it's given him some experience sheerly because he's played more games. He's 19 turning what? He's 20 and he's 20 this month actually, so he's now of that age where he doesn't need to be the finished article, but he needs to start coming into his own, and he needs to start showing some signs of progress, really and truly, people, which he has done. But I mean, so far 16 appearances, 1 goal, 3 assists. For as decent as he plays, he needs to show a better return. He hasn't completed 90 minutes all the time, and he has had some injuries, but he has played substantially, people. Like, he was quite good against Charlton earlier in the year. He was okay against Brentford in one of his first appearances. You know, he's had some tough times, people, but most importantly, we just want him to come back more confident in his abilities and in his quest to break into the Arsenal first team, play with more maturity in his movement, in how he picks up the ball and how he decides games, and crucially for me, goals and assists, because that's what he needs to bring to the table. He's mentioned looking at Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne's got way more to his game than goals and assists, but fundamentally goals and assists are what decide games, and he ranks quite high for both of them. He's decided games on his own with shots, and obviously setting up goals. Of course he can dictate the tempo, but above all, when I think of Kevin De Bruyne and his lovely passing, I think dynamic, and these are the elements. Emile's got to be less poetry in motion, more dynamic sort of midfielder if he's going to break in. I think the ability is there, but it's, you know, you've got to show it. He's 20, still young, but, you know, you've got to start kicking on a bit. And it's like with him, Nelson and Joe, you've got to start kicking on a bit, really. But I'm encouraged by him, man. I give his loan spell today, without it all being finished, I'll give it a 7, man. I think it's been decent for him. We'd like to have seen more goals. He's got the ability, and he has been getting in the areas, and he is known to try dribble past couple man, have a little shot. So, like I said, the main thing is confidence, and I give it a 7 out of 10. But I'll be here to review it again, man. So, yeah, man, I think he should have confidence. I think he's not set the world alight, but he should take confidence from his loan spell in Yorkshire and have confidence in relation to his long-term goal, in which I assume or hope is breaking into Arsenal's first team 11. But for now, that's all I've got to say on Emile. Keep shining, Emile. You know, we're all supporting you. We're all hopeful, as we are for all of the young players on loan and whatnot. But for now, DG, I'm out.